Tell me what the headlines were. What were people actually saying?
Chumano comes out. Chumano is very derogatory terms. The thing is, I did not come out. What gave me so much freedom ended up kind of putting me back in prison. I just couldn't understand some of the things that people would say. Any meme that people posted, either, they would always really hyper focus on the sex part of it. They would post images of septic tanks and the idea that it was unclean. Any photos of mud, they would post that.
Welcome to the Lives Less Ordinary podcast on the BBC World Service YouTube channel with me, Mubin Azar. I'm really pleased to have with us today Willis Chumano. He went from singing a cappella with his friends at school to being part of one of Africa's biggest boy bands. Along the way, he's also become an LGBTQ role model and hero. In Kenya, where he was born, homosexuality is still punishable by imprisonment. I'm really pleased to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me about growing up in Nairobi. What was your childhood like?
It was good. It was good. I had amazing parents. I was a very shy child. So my mannerisms were always just very flamboyant as a child. My dressing sense as a child as well was very colorful. I used to pick out my mom's outfits sometimes for work. And it's one of those things when I look back, I don't know if my mom knew, for example. But I think later on, because she's the one who kind of literally pulled me out of the closet.
You used a particular phrase. You said your mother pulled you out of the closet.
Right, yeah.
Am I right in thinking your parents are religious?
Yes.
Extremely religious.
Yeah.
And so how did that fit around your mom saying to you, let's have a conversation. What is going on with you? Who are you?
I think it's the wanting to be sure and wanting to help, but it's not the kind of help that you would think that you're going to receive. Because I'd just been, as a teenager would, just being weird, abrasive, rebellious, and that was unlike me. At one time, she just told me, I need to see you, let's go to your room. And that's when she asked the question of, are you a gay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Use that phrase. Okay.
Yeah, use it. Are you a gay?
Okay, fine.
God, I was a 17, 18-year-old little boy living under my parents' roof. So yes, I denied it a few times, and of course she goes into, so what if people find out, and what if people know? I don't want to be the last one to know. And so it's my mother, and of course I tell her, like, yes, I am. It was a bit of a crying fest, and then of course the Bible came into the picture. It's against the Bible. It's an African, and are you willing to change? Oh God. So I said, yeah, I was willing to change, because I didn't know what else to say. Here I am living under my parents' roof.
What options do you have?
What options do I have? It's weirdly enough, that was the first night in ages where I was tucked in and I was told I love you very much, and it felt very wholesome, because it had been such a long time to receive that sort of affection. And I know my folks love me, but to receive that sort of affection that is very wholesome, in some sort of way. But the weird thing that happened now the following day and a few days after is that, because I said I'm willing to change, I received, and I kept receiving documents and essays and whatever of people who have changed, maybe gone through conversion therapies and all of that. I used to find them on my bed in the mornings.
These kind of pamphlets or guides.
Oh, guides, yes.
So was the idea because other people had written about purging their sexuality,
their sexual desires. Yeah.
You'd be able to do the same.
I would be able to do the same. So I did get quite a lot of that.
In this period of your life, where there's this pressure, there's an implication that you should change and therefore you will change. Were you finding escape through song, through music?
Yes. I definitely was. I remember the first time I watched Thriller. by Michael Jackson. I was in awe. I think I was maybe like 6 years old or something like that. I was scared 'cause I was at my cousin's house. I was so scared, but I was so intrigued at the same time because I didn't understand how this is music, but it's video, but it's horror-ish, which probably I think informed my love for horror movies right now at this time of my at this time of my life. It's
You and me both.
oh,
Okay.
do you love horror movies? I love horror. Oh
I
my
really do.
God.
Favorite genre. Yeah.
Oh my God. Anyway, so yeah, the first time I watched Thriller, I was in shock, and then I remember telling my cousin that you know what, you wait, one day I'm going to be a superstar, and then she laughed a bit. It's just I think a few years ago where she told me like, I guess you had the last laugh.
You
Just
really
like,
did?
yeah, I did. So that, and then Prince and Freddie Mercury, for example. It was an escape in that I saw a level of a kind of expression that I felt that I had in me, but I didn't know how to, how I didn't know how to give it an identity.
Mm.
So the escape in it was creating a different world in my brain. Prince. The first song I listened to Prince was "Could You Be the Most Beautiful Girl in the World?" Da, da, could you be that? That's still my favorite Prince song, and because it literally gives me a sense of nostalgia where it puts me in the time and place. I was by myself. I was alone in the house. Because yeah, my mom didn't like me watching this kind of listening to that kind of music or watching those kind of
It
videos.
takes you to that place.
It takes me to that place of, yeah, just in that moment I tasted freedom. I saw a version of what could be. So yeah.
I really understand that. It's
Yeah.
such a lovely description, seeing a version of what can be.
Yeah.
For some people,
Mhm.
they will have those moments singing around the house when no one's there,
Yeah.
singing in the bedroom into
Yeah.
a hairbrush.
Mhm.
You didn't stop there, of course. So
No.
talk to me about the birth of the a cappella band that would become your band and be the vehicle through which you would see the world.
What happened is that in high school, in the city in Nairobi now, I joined the music club.
Mm-hmm.
I was placed in a class that happened to have who is my former bandmate now.
Mm-hmm.
It's called BN. So I joined the music club, but then within the music club now, the school has like a legacy a cappella group. So then BN was just like, yeah, would you like to as well join this a cappella group called Voice in the Light? And I was like, sure. And from then on, we just kept on singing. So it was BN, of course, me, and my now as well former bandmate who were in the same school as well, Savara. So we kept singing together up until we cleared school. We finished our high school, and after we were done, we just told each other, shall we just keep on singing? So we're just
Sauti Sol was born.
yeah, Sauti Sol was born. Being in Sauti Sol has been the greatest ride of my life. It has defined who it is that I am. It has transported me to that place where that little boy thought of being. Starting out, of course, it was we didn't know. Of course, we didn't know what we were doing. We used to dream of what we'd like to be. Coldplay were having their moment at that time. So our mindset was we have to do over and above what any other band has ever done coming out of this country or from this continent. I remember it was also around that time that Obama got elected,
Mm-hmm.
and BN and I just looked at each other and we said, we're going to meet this man at one point, as long as he's the president of the United States, because yeah, we're just like, yeah, it's a moment. He's partly Kenyan, so yay, it's going to happen. When it happened, that was one of the first times because Obama came to Kenya, and the president at that time loved us and invited us to perform. So here we are at State House, Nairobi. So where we were performing, they had put up this huge tent, of course, where the event was happening. So our stage was there on the other end, and we're the other end. So we're just like, how are we going to get there?
How are we going to swing by and say, hey, Mr. President?
Yeah, because of course we're not going to get a one-on-one meeting. So as we're on stage, because you have the mic and it's your moment, so you kind of have the power
You've
at
got the
that
power at that
at that
point,
at
of
that
course.
point. So we just looked at each other and we were just like, we walk, let's walk. So we got off stage and just started marching towards as we're singing, just like, just playing it coy until we got to the high table. So
Where
then,
President Obama is
yeah, where
sitting.
President Obama and President Uhuru was sat. So then, yeah, we get there. Then we start singing a particular song. Our president gets up and starts dancing, and then he picks up Obama, and then Obama comes,
They
and
were both dancing to your
they're
music.
both dancing to our music, and Obama is just there. Now Obama is literally next to us now, and Bien and I looking at each other, and we're just like, oh my God, we're all, oh wow. So it was a surreal moment, because then after that, I remember when I was shaking his hands, I was just like, oh, his hands, they feel very small.
Did you say that? Mr.
No,
President,
no.
your hands feel
Oh,
very
no, no, no,
small.
no,
You
no.
didn't
I
say
was,
it.
I was just in. Oh my God, hello.
When you have moments like that,
Yeah.
whether it's dancing and performing
Yeah.
with President Obama, of course, it doesn't matter how humble you are, doesn't matter how you're wired, there's a degree of power that comes with that.
Yeah.
It must feel, almost impossible to not have a moment of thinking, I've really made it. Conversely, though, at the time, in terms of your public persona, there's still a secret.
Yes, there is.
So were your bandmates, were they supportive? Did they know the real you?
Yes, very early on from the onset. So after there was the sense of things were getting bigger. They sat me down, and they're just like, so, Chim, we know you're gay, okay? So, okay, now
Just
that's
like
it. That's
that.
done. Yeah. So that's done. We're good. We love you. We support you. So that's good. Okay, moving on.
Just like that.
Just like that. But the only advice they could give on top of that was, yeah, but just be careful. And also, it's in the environment that we are in Kenya, because a lot has actually changed in the last 10-15 years, of course. So then it would have definitely been career suicide for there to be an inkling about my sexuality. And also, I guess, fortunately enough, that was the onset of the social media that we know now, because Facebook, we weren't really showing our lives the way we do now. So it was a number of years where I could move in the shadows without being clocked, So
Which is still very difficult. I mean, it's
It's-
great
yeah.
to have the support of your bandmates. But
Yeah.
it's very difficult to still effectively have to hide. So you then continued
Yeah.
performing, being this cultural phenomenon, really achieving a huge level of success,
yeah,
but with this element of yourself hidden. As you said, back then, certainly,
yeah,
it would have been terrible for
Yeah.
your career.
Yeah.
There would have been implications. Talk to me and talk me through the moment you saw that a particular image had been posted on social media.
one of my best friends who called me, and he said, "Did is Chim aware, like, of this image, or is he okay with it being posted?" So then I was like, "What are you talking about?"
What is the image?
There was the image. So so then when I saw it, so I was just like, "Oh my God, oh God, oh God."
Explain the image to me.
It's an image of me and my partner, and my other friends with their partners. So it was very obvious. They should have had permission from me. They should have asked, like, is it okay?
Was the picture posted maliciously, or they just didn't think it through?
No, it wasn't posted maliciously.
It just wasn't thought through.
It just wasn't thought through.
The fact is, there was a problem because
Yeah.
very soon after that, the image is picked up
Yeah,
by the newspapers,
yeah.
and then the stories begin.
Then now people have an in. People had an in into now fully examining and assessing my life.
So
Yeah.
tell me what the headlines were. What were people actually saying?
Um, Chimano comes out. Chimano is very derogatory terms in some of the blogs. Chimano finally comes out, blah blah. Just the casual, but the thing is, I did not come out, so they took it upon themselves to say that I did, knowing very well that I said nothing about it. It was only a photo that was posted.
You see, this is the point. It's one thing
Yeah,
to make a decision
yeah,
to say, this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is my life. I mean, no one should have to share details of their private life that they don't want to.
yeah.
But it's one thing to assert yourself with confidence. It's another thing to have that decision taken away from you.
Yeah,
It's a real loss of control, isn't it?
yeah. It is a loss of control. I think the chips just started falling in terms of how people looked at me, treated me, what they would say about me. So I eventually had to now fully come out. It's interesting when we talk about success, how we got to now that level of success, and then my coming out and all of that, how the thing or the what gave me so much freedom and ended up being kind of putting me back in prison in a way, because a lot of the fans, like, who are our fans or my fans, or when the tide turns, you wonder, like, was it real? Was it ever real? In that, my God, I just couldn't understand some of the things that people would say. Any meme that people posted, either, they would always really hyper focus on the sex part of it. They would post, like, images of septic tanks and
Septic tanks.
yeah,
What, the idea that it was unclean?
and the idea that it was unclean. Then any photos of mud, they would post that. It was interesting as well. Just the other day, as I was going through um some of my messages that I don't usually read, that because on Instagram you have, like, the primary and the general,
And then the filtered
the
messages or
filtered
message requests.
they're the ones that are hidden by Instagram, I think. So there's this particular person who's been texting me for the last 4 years, dedicated. And I was taken aback, because the first message was, "You're the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life." Then literally here you dress like like as someone who has no brains. Then then it's just like, you don't belong in this world. Like, this world would be better without you.
Just horrible,
It's
horrible
just
stuff.
yes, and some messages, people just saying that one day we're gonna cut you up. So, and that when you confront the person, they're just like, "Oh, I was just joking," because I'm just like, "Is this a threat?" Because I asked the person, like, are you making a threat? I just want to be clear before I take any action. Then that's when they're just like, "Oh, but of course I'm just joking. Why are you taking things so seriously?"
The fact is, though, as well as the implications to your career, there's another set of implications, because you could actually be in danger.
Yeah,
And more so, I know in Kenya people are not often prosecuted.
yeah,
But there are colonial era laws
yeah. There are.
introduced by the British that govern the idea that homosexuality,
Yeah.
specifically between men,
Yeah,
is illegal and
Yeah.
punishable by imprisonment. I think it's up to 14 years in prison.
yeah.
Did you feel that you were in danger? I'm talking about physically, but also from the law. Did you feel, as a public figure,
Yeah.
you could be prosecuted?
No, but I did feel uncertain about how my movements. And after that image, I think one of my friends, first of all, he just got into crisis problem solving mode and got me a lawyer. And immediately we started looking for protection, that I probably need to start walking around with protection, because now, after the news picked it up and all of that, so then I was just like, oh God. Then yeah, I had to, I felt like I just had to now be aware of where it is that I'm going. I did have an incident a few years prior when we were at an event where someone punched me in the face. And I had, so I know I'm laughing now.
You were assaulted. It's
Yeah,
horrible.
that was horrible. I'd never been punched in the face. So, first of all, in my mind, I'm just like, wait, did I? I feel like I'm missing a few seconds somewhere. And then am I bleeding? Wait, why am I on the floor?
Was it a homophobic attack? Do you know? Or
It was. It was. It was. I remember people saying some things as I was walking by, throwing quite a bit of insults at me as I was walking backstage. Yeah, but my bandmates in their true fashion lived into
they
action.
rallied around you?
Oh my god, no, they went to war.
Okay, they did more than rally around you.
No,
Okay.
yeah, no, they went to war. I remember seeing being like drop kicking that person.
Wow.
I
okay.
was just like,
They were not going to accept this.
no, yeah. At some point, I think after that they decided, we're not performing. We're leaving. And so we left. We left, and I think it was. I love them more.
Sure. And listen, firstly, I'm really sorry that you went through that. The fact is that you had already had this attack, and I would say that you had learnt to be vigilant, because I think often people do. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Within that context, you are outed. You haven't made this decision to go public.
Yeah.
And so that is a really difficult thing to deal with.
Yeah.
The fact that you were just actually gay, because I say this.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes when we're younger people, we can think, okay, this is part of me.
Right.
But no one's ever really going to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be my life. When did you accept the fact that it was who you are? It was unavoidable. It was part of who you are.
Actually, do you know what? Yes. I did, when I knew that this is it, is immediately after telling my mom that I will change. It is at that moment that I knew that, of course, I'm not. It was at that moment that I guess my anger towards myself, I felt like I'd denied myself, that I'd told myself that I'm not worthy, I'm not enough. It's only if I say that, that's when I'm enough. It is at that moment that I knew that I am.
So at that point, you knew this is something that you're gonna have to deal with.
And now what I'm going to do after this, it's kind of like just troubleshooting. I'm just going to like line my way through up until I leave the house. But also, I think in a way I decided to look at it in a different way after some time, and it forced me to face a lot of things about myself, because at some point I felt angry at myself so many times for denying that part about myself and not standing in my own truth and being assertive as to who I am. So I had to go into a process of forgiveness and soul searching and forgiving, and that is forgiving myself mostly.
Tell me what that means.
Forgiving myself for all the times that I denied who it is that I am to other people. There was a time I did this interview in one of the TV stations in Kenya, and I think maybe the reporter was trying to play a gotcha moment or something like that, and when she asked me, like, just out of the blue, there's been rumors, blah blah blah, so are you gay? Just that, and that took me by surprise. But this was at that moment where things were just starting to rise and get better, and I said no, and she asked again, and I said no. I had to forgive myself for the moments like those. I had to forgive myself for moments when I told my mom that I'm going to change.
How did your parents react?
There was no reaction. There's no reaction. There was
Really?
Nothing was said. Nothing was said at all. We never talked about it. Remember when you talked about the fork in the road?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the silent fork really stayed silent up until recently, where I had to have a second coming out to them, to just tell them like, excuse me, yes, I am gay.
How did that go, Chimano?
I went back and it was a wonderful Sunday afternoon, and I told my folks that again, here we are. I'm gay and it's not going anywhere, and I would just like you to understand that. If you want to know about my life, you have to do the work. You have to go out of your way to find out more about your son. And so it's not going to be my responsibility, in as much as I still love you and I'm still here. I'm still going to come and visit you. I'm still, we still talk. We're amazing. But I'm not agonizing over them not fully, wanting to know about my life.
So now you know this is me.
Now you know this
I'm
is
not
me.
going to be apologizing.
No, I'm not.
And the rest is up to you.
The rest is up to you. Really, the rest is up to you. I can't. Yeah, I can't keep walking around with this hanging over my head, feeling that I'm sneaking about, and feeling that I'm still living under your roof.
Of course. How would you describe the relationship you have with them now?
Cordial.
Okay, cordial. So it's functional. It works.
It's functional. It works.
Really practical question.
Okay.
This is just how my mind works.
Yeah.
Your outfit is today
thank you.
beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Would you see your parents in this kind of outfit?
Well, not the full outfit.
Not the full outfit.
Not
so
the
you
full
tailor
outfit.
yourself.
Yes,
So
I
there's
do. I still have my jewelry,
Okay.
but out of respect, I'll remove an earring. I'll remove my nose rings. I'll remove my nail polish.
So you want to meet them in a particular way, but you
Yeah.
also want them to meet you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, slowly by slowly, with even just my look and all of that, I will say, I think one of the most sobering things for me is when the moment you realize the humanity in your parents, that they're just human beings who have made their mistakes, probably also carrying a bit of trauma from somewhere, and I don't know. So there's a very sobering experience that you go through. And my mom and I, when we talk on phone, it's more, I kind of feel like it's more of girlfriends, but
Great. It's that
But,
realization
yeah.
so that they're human too.
yeah,
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
I'm glad it's in a better place.
it is.
I really am.
Yeah.
You referenced this idea of early on in your career, there being implications for your career.
Yeah.
So you spoke about, you used the phrase career suicide.
Yeah.
More recently, I know the band has been on this kind of sabbatical,
Yes.
and you've worked on a solo project.
Yeah.
With the performances for that, there were particular implications of your sexuality, weren't there?
Yeah. That was way back in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of friends of mine and me were putting up a gig called Love and Harmony, and it was to celebrate my unreleased EP, which wasn't released yet, which is called Heavy as a Crown. And then, so we were setting it up in a certain area, but then somehow the area chief of police or something of that area denied us a permit, or they went to the event space and told them that this gig is not going to happen in my vicinity, so take it somewhere else. Anyway, so we took it somewhere else. We found a different place of the city where it's under a different jurisdiction. So I'm just in my car driving to rehearsal. I'm just passing where the event space is. I'm seeing all this like police trucks, and I'm just like, oh, somebody's in trouble. So I get to rehearsal, but something just doesn't feel right, and so then my friend pulls me into the office, and they told me, so yeah, the cops showed up at the event space as they were setting up, and I was just like, oh, because when I was passing the place, I saw a lot of trucks, and they're just like, yeah, that was for us, sis. I was like,
It's for you.
"Oh,
You're at
yeah,
the center of that. What was
yeah."
the particular objection?
I don't know, for some reason, I don't know whether they were thinking it's a gay event that is being brought over because of the organizers or something.
Do you think the event was stopped because by this point you were public about your sexuality?
It was stopped because of the sexuality bit, of course. There definitely was no other reason. And also, my other friend, one of the other organizers, is a pretty big um, um, influence in the community as well,
In the gay
in the gay
community.
community. So definitely that was the reason. And even what the cops were saying when they were there, they were telling the crew that was setting up that we're here to stop you from setting up, but if you keep setting up, you let the gig go on, and we're going to show you what we're going to do to people once they show up at your event. Basically, a threat. In the other area, that other cop made it clear, I don't want those kind of people in my.
Those kinds of people.
Yeah, those kind of people will never have a place in my area.
Have you been able to perform that show in Kenya?
Now, a few months later, I did, but then I did perform it under. It was under a brand.
So that gave a level of protection.
A level of protection.
Today, where you are, as we sit here, we have this conversation
Yeah.
in 2025, and you were speaking very publicly today
Yeah.
about your sexuality, about your queerness. Do you accept that within Kenya and within Africa more broadly, you've become a role model and a hero to many people, actually?
I don't know. I would like to think that my story, and because my story as well, for me it's liberating. It's my form of therapy. It's sitting here with you and being able to have these conversations. I would not have been able to do this just a year ago or 2 years ago. But yeah, I would like to think that my story goes a long way in encouraging or being there and giving some sort of comfort for someone like me, who sees themselves in me.
What would you say to that version of yourself? You referenced the teenage version of yourself who was given those pamphlets. What would you say to them?
That your story is gonna be your superpower. You're gonna be all right. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. You'll get to a place where you'll go through the motions and you'll forgive yourself. You're fine. You're be
fine.
Good. Yeah.
Chimano, I am so grateful for this conversation.
Yeah.
I really, really am.
Thank you for having me.
You've been watching Lives Less Ordinary from the BBC World Service. Please do like, subscribe, and share. From me, Mubin Azar. Till next time, take care.